and on paper have the same or similar benefits. Yet employees at one firm regularly rate their company much higher than employees do at their competitors. Why? Usually the defining characteristic of a great place to work is this level of trust between management and employees that I've mentioned previously, not just specific policies and practices. Indeed, improving the benefits alone creates the good place, not the great place to work. The latter requires the direct involvement of senior management, not just the human resources department, who must insist that fostering an exceptional work environment is an explicit goal of the organisation. The organisation sets out as an organisation to achieve this. One that is on a par with explicit goals like making a profit, providing higher quality products or services. Being a great place to work cannot be a fad of the month, or will rightly appear to employees as just another version of management manipulation. We're doing employee of choice this month, what are we going to do next month? Has no credibility, nothing is sustained. So what can you do in your company to be recognised as the best employer or a great place to work? When you look at the results and you look at the companies that regularly rate in these global scales, several clear trends emerge. Firstly, the companies know what's happening on the ground. These companies regularly monitor employee opinion and are more than twice as likely as their peers to run surveys at least once, if not more times a year. In other words, they actively engage in finding out what their employees think. Their surveys are also nearly 20% more likely to generate action and change than those of their peers. So they take the results and they do something about them. They also get people involved at ground level, with line managers actively involved in engagement programs rather than seeing them as initiatives just imposed by human resources. So it's a company-wide responsibility, and it's implemented at line manager level across the entire company, not just within the HR department. These companies recognise that clear, transparent communication is key, especially in adverse conditions. As one company put it, when things go bad economically, you have to communicate more, not less. And I'm again regularly asked what the fundamental elements of things like change management, career development, performance management are, and my answer is always communication, communication, communication. The only way in which you will effectively manage your business is to improve communication, not reduce it. Crucially, these firms know that just worrying about employee satisfaction in isolation achieves nothing. They link their engagement programs with clear business objectives, which also means they can ultimately demonstrate return on investment for their efforts. For example, 71% of companies surveyed successfully made the connection between employee engagement and customer satisfaction, how engaged the employees were, and the improvements and benefits of the measurement of their own customer satisfaction. With employee engagement embedded into their businesses, these successful companies are exiting recession with levels of motivation and empowerment that will help sustain their success. So let me give you 8 practical tips that you can do in order to keep your employees engaged for the long term. Firstly, and it's emerged already, listen to your employees. Most people want to work for an employer who cares enough to listen. The best way to know what your employees need and expect is to ask them and to listen carefully to their answers. Two-way communication is imperative. When I was the head of human resources for one of Australia's large public companies, on my first day in the job, and my job was to set up the human resources structure for a company of about 7,000 people in Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia. The managing director and I discussed my job, and we both agreed that my job was to be away from the office 3 days a week. And for the next 18 months, every week, for at least 3 days, I was out of the office somewhere in Australia and New Zealand, talking to groups at a time. I was the head of human resources, and I was stood up in front of them No lectern, no microphone, open neck shirt. They would sit in a group like this and we would talk. And I would talk about vision, mission, values, goals, objectives, performance management, career development. Throw the floor open to them and ask for any questions and then answer even the most embarrassing questions honestly and openly. Within 18 months, the employee engagement measures of that entire firm grew exponentially, grew out of all proportion to what it had been 18 months before. Employee retention was high and employee satisfaction was enormous. And it was based around this two-way communication of looking at employees in the eye and talking to them and getting their feedback. The second is to provide clear, consistent expectations. Vague policies and unclear expectations make employees irritated, make them feel unsafe, even paranoid. This leads to your employees becoming disengaged. They click into survival mode instead of focusing on how to help the company succeed. As I've just talked about, communicate the company vision, mission, objectives, and expectations constantly. Give employees a sense of importance. This has a greater impact on loyalty and customer service than all other factors combined. Engage them in projects and tasks and show trust. Develop opportunities for advancement. The chance to work your way up the ladder is a tremendous incentive for productivity. Bonding and employee engagement. Have a clear career development policy which is properly applied. Create good relationships with others in the workplace. If you have a bad relationship with employees, or if management has a bad relationship with employees, this toxic environment just makes the business worse and worse. You need to have an environment where the management relationship with employees is more open, is honest, is a happy environment, is an honest relationship. With that comes engagement. Offer regular feedback. If you want to keep your employees moving forward, give them the occasional feedback report. And don't forget positive feedback, which should ideally outnumber the negative by about 5 to 1. Give praise when it's earned, openly and collectively. Make employees feel good about themselves. Following on from that is celebrating and rewarding success. Set realistic targets, then reward and celebrate when they are reached. Pick landmarks along the way. Don't wait for something big to end. Do it progressively. At one stage in Australia, I was setting up the recruitment, a new recruitment department for what eventually became the world's largest recruiting company. And every Friday, for you, every Wednesday afternoon at about 5 o'clock, the employees would gather. And for about half an hour, there'd be a session, normally run by the managing director or his offsider. And in it, they would give out stupid little prizes, nothing valuable, nothing important, but it was for the best recruiter of the week, the person who'd placed the best person in the best position, had made the most money, had outlined or brought in so many new customers. And they'd all stand around and clap and talk and laugh. And this weekly gathering became so important to the culture of the place that everyone looked forward to it. Not to get the prizes, but to get recognised, to be rewarded, to have someone say, you did a good job, here's a little prize, everyone claps. That process cannot be underestimated in terms of developing that trust and developing that confidence within the organisation itself. Finally, move from the company to our company. It's this sense of ownership. The heart and soul of engagement is ownership. As long as your employees feel they are working to help you make your company succeed, engagement will be low. Once you get them to see themselves as partners in the endeavour, making decisions, staying informed, sharing the company's ups and downs, everything changes. Engagement soars. Something I noticed this week, and I've just briefly added, McKinsey did a global survey, results of which were announced only a couple of days ago. They talked to 1,047 executives, managers and employees globally from a range of sectors, and they asked the question, what are the 3 major non-cash motivators in their company? The answers were